Welcome to the Dumb Idea Podcast Show with Mike and Alex. We thank you for joining us as we have a couple of beers and a cigar and talk about what's going on in our lives. Grab an adult beverage and a smoke and settle in with us. Please like, subscribe, and comment on each show so we can hear whether you agree or disagree with our take on things. Listen wherever your favorite podcasts are and at www.dumbideapodcast.com.
All right, so anyone who's not been living under a rock for the past 2 or 3 weeks has probably seen everything that's happening in Afghanistan, and it's something that's worth talking about, just because it's been, something that's been occurring for the last 20 years, almost 20 years, and when it started, I was in college, and since then I've gotten married, had 3 kids, bought a house, and I think a lot of people are in the same boat. There are some people that have served in the latter part that were in diapers when it started. So, and just the absolute disaster that's unfolding out there, and what's the reason behind it, what's causing it, and I think we can all understand that. Yeah, at some point, U.S. forces were going to leave Afghanistan. But for all the time and money and effort that was put into that region of the world, to roll out like this in this complete disaster is kind of off-putting.
Yeah, and just to put in perspective, the money. So $2.2 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, prior to 3 years ago, the annual budget of the entire United States was about $1 trillion a year. So this was almost 2 full years worth of U.S. dollar budgets.
Yeah.
Total budgets. Like not we spend this quarterly. Like an entire year U.S. budget that gets passed through Congress was generally about $1 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
So $2.2 trillion equals about 2 full years of U.S. spending. Yeah. Then on top of that, I believe we went into Afghanistan about 2 months, one or 2 months after 9/11.
Correct, yep.
So we are almost at September 1st. So, you're probably about 2 months short of 20 full years in Afghanistan. Yeah. And, the funny part is we're leaving exactly how the Soviets left.
Right.
When when they left Afghanistan, I believe it was the 90s or the 80s. I forgot which one.
I think it was the 80s because the Berlin Wall fell in the early 90s, or it was 89. So,
and the funny part is the U.S. had a covert involvement when the Soviets were involved in Afghanistan, and it wasn't like we didn't know how tough that terrain was to take over the country, basically. Right. And rather than learning from others' past mistakes while knowing why it happened, because the CIA, they knew why the Russians failed.
Mm-hmm.
A large part of it has to do with the terrain of the country because it's so mountainous.
Yeah.
There's very few valleys in Afghanistan. And especially the border with Pakistan, it's very mountainous. And I remember for the longest time, one of the issues was that the Pashtuns, which were the Taliban,
mm-hmm.
They were going over the border back and forth, and the U.S. wouldn't go into Pakistan. And it's one of those things where I feel like the U.S., before they went in, should have learned these things.
Yeah.
And you had to clear out the Taliban because that was the resistance, and your goal was to kill Osama bin Laden. Right. And then we killed Osama bin Laden.
And stuck around.
And we didn't leave.
Yeah. And we didn't even kill Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan.
Right.
He was killed in Pakistan.
Yeah.
And we're not the first country to leave. That the Russians did. Prior to that, I think the British got it handed to them there. Yeah. I think Genghis Khan had trouble with Afghanistan. And the thing is, none of these countries there, Yeah, there are borders and all this stuff, but there's tribes, and they don't really care about the borders. And there's never been one central authority there at any point. It's whoever the strongest, meanest dude is at the time, kind of runs it.
Well, and his power only goes to his certain area.
Yeah.
Before we were there was never the notion of a central Afghan government didn't really exist.
Right.
They had some central people that they would send to like UN meetings or places like that. But as far as on the ground, it was warlords, and they controlled their area of influence.
Right.
And they either got along or they didn't get along with the neighbor in the next one.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real national identity, and I think that's why you're seeing the Afghan government that we spent so long trying to build up collapse so readily.
Yeah.
There's just no national identity for an Afghan like there is with the United States.
Right. And we equipped the most recent iteration of the Afghani army really well. All that stuff is still there.
In some capacity.
Yeah.
They disable a lot of it before they leave.
Yeah. But the thing is that it's that army was trained and equipped, but you could have the best well-trained soldiers with the best equipment, but if they're not fighting for something, they're going to drop their weapons and run.
Right.
Because their loyalty is not to Afghanistan. Their loyalty is to whatever tribe or whatever region or warlord or whoever. And even when during the course of this, you'd have these groups, groups of American soldiers or Marines operating in a fob, and they'd go out and they'd talk to this tribal elder, and then they'd go and talk to this other one, and on such a small level, they had to make good with all of these guys to just be able to operate.
Yeah.
Now, sure, they could go in there and with overwhelming force just kill everything that moved.
Well, that's what the Russians tried to do.
Right, if they wanted to. And then, and really the Russians were doing okay because...
Until we gave weapons.
Right. We gave the Mujahideen Stinger missiles, and they were able to shoot down the Russian helicopters with them. So they lost that asset.
Good movie about that, though, for people that want to see something that's a good movie, but based in truth. Charlie Wilson's War.
Mm-hmm.
With Tom Hanks is in it, Julia Roberts is in it. It gives a pretty neat insight into how we were involved with that Russian conflict within Afghanistan. And I know it's just a movie, so things are embellished, but for the most part, they got some factual stuff right.
I've never seen it, but I heard they kind of stuck to it pretty good, and the character, the actual Charlie Wilson was a character anyway.
Yeah.
And then they really nailed him and then what he was doing there. So I haven't seen it. I should. But
it's a good movie.
Yeah.
One of my favorite characters in any movie, and he's played by Philip Seymour Hoffman,
mm-hmm.
was the character Gus Avocados, who was the CIA intelligence man that was advising Charlie. The man, he played that character so well. And he's such a gruff kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest people watch it just to see him in that movie.
Just for him?
Like, he actually overshadows, in my opinion, Tom Hanks in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he did such a great job in that movie. I know at the time it wasn't billed. It didn't get much advertisement. It wasn't a big movie theater movie. But if you want something fun to watch that gives you a little bit of historical knowledge, take a Friday night or Saturday night, watch that movie.
Yeah.
It's a solid flick.
Yeah. And I wonder why, after learning all of these lessons, we seeing everyone do it before, we went in there and went and did the same thing. Now, there is some argument on the other side of, in support of it, that says, well, we're fighting there, that they're not fighting here. And there hasn't been a significant terror attack from Al-Qaeda, Taliban, ISIS, anyone on U.S. soil since, because we've been engaging them there. So I can definitely see some of that argument. Dan Crenshaw gave a speech today, which very interesting, where he said, we were at war in 1993 when the World Trade Center was bombed. We were at war when the Cole was bombed. We were at war. We just were pretending we weren't until September 11th. And
right, the incident was too big to ignore.
Right. And then now all of a sudden, and the thing is, the World Trade Center bombing, I believe that was 93, was supposed to do that.
Right.
But it didn't work. The charge wasn't big enough. It wasn't in the right place. So it was supposed to bring down the tower.
I don't think it did. It didn't do enough damage.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a big enough incident. I mean, it was an incident though.
Yeah.
Just not enough to keep people's attention.
Yeah. It and then it made it into a Biggie song, blow up like the World Trade.
Right.
But it's one of those things where now we've invested so much time and money and blood in that region. I mean, I have buddies that served over there, and a lot of them are kind of messed up now. I won't say messed up, but they're dealing with some issues from it. Kid I went to high school with, he went over there and was killed in action, in that part of the world. So I can definitely see the people saying, what the F about we're just going to roll out. Yeah. And then the way we're doing it, watching Joe Biden said there's not going to be Saigon, and the very next day there's a Chinook moving people out. Now, apparently that's how they travel anyway, is via helicopter, but the optics were terrible.
Well, it wasn't just that. I mean, there was the big, what was it, C-130?
Mm-hmm.
And
the C-17 go down the runway?
Was that the one?
Yeah.
And then people were trying to, they were literally going to, they were willing to try riding off on the outside of a plane.
Oh, yeah.
A plane.
Yeah, yeah.
Clinging, like a gecko to the outside of a plane. You're willing to take that chance just to maybe hope that you get out alive.
Yep.
And then I guess some people were hanging onto the wheels, and they kind of got
crushed. Falling off. Yeah.
Well, they got crushed when the wheels went up.
Yep.
It was not a good scene.
Yeah, and then falling off onto the runway as the plane's leaving. I mean, it's awful. But think of the desperation.
Yeah, well, that's the other part of it.
And these people know that they're going to be tortured and killed for helping the Americans once we're gone. And then the American citizens who are still there. And now they're sticking to this timeline of evacuation, or to stop being to withdrawal, but it's just a date that they decided on.
Well, I think they made a deal because once the Afghan government left, the U.S. didn't have much of a choice. I mean, yeah, they could have stood and fought, but they made such rapid progress through the country that for the U.S. to stand, they were literally going to be sitting at the Air Force, but at the base there in Kabul, and that was it. That's all they had left.
Yeah. Well, they gave up Bagram, which was a bonehead move.
Well, maybe it's Bagram, not Kabul.
Yeah. Well, so they gave up Bagram. They voluntarily just pulled out of Bagram.
Yeah.
Which, as an air base of if nothing else at this point, gives you a couple more runways to operate off of.
Right.
Now there are some that say go take Bagram back, which we have the capability of doing.
Right.
82nd Airborne, that's kind of what they do. They deploy, they land, they take an airfield, and then once they have the airfield, well, now we're in.
Right.
And you don't have to stay there forever. And I think that's the fear of some people is that, we'll just end up staying there forever. But to leave our own people behind, and to leave people who, the thing is when the interpreters, and now let's not get confused and think that all these interpreters are great people.
Right.
Because some of the interpreters turned on their,
a lot of them are mercenaries.
Yeah.
They're there because it's a nice payday.
Yeah. And then someone else offers them more money.
Right.
Or in other cases, they'll say, hey, you're going to do this or we're going to kill your family.
Right.
Because we're not dealing with people. And then to listen to the president stand up there and say, well, we made a deal with the Taliban. You made a deal with the Taliban. It's almost, it reminds me of The Hangover when he's talking about the drug dealer at the liquor store is not a good dude.
Right.
What did the last 20 years teach them? Nothing.
No, but I've got a little bit of a different opinion on this one, where I think because the Afghan government left, the Afghan military doesn't identify completely with a national Afghan identity. Mm-hmm. They identify with their tribe, either Pashtun or Tajik or whatever. Yeah. And that was also kind of the way it happened in Iraq. When we tried to build up a national military mixed with Sunni and Shia.
Yeah.
And when push came to shove, they sided with either their Sunni tribe or their Shia tribe and not with their Iraqi tribe.
Right.
It was one of the reasons why Saddam, whether you liked his politics or the way him and his kids handled things, one of the only ways to kind of manage a country like that is a little bit heavy-handed.
Yeah.
In order to maintain some kind of order. Because, thanks to our good British friends, mm-hmm. when they left the Middle East, and don't get it twisted, Britain was the initial, not the initial, but the last colonizer of that Middle Eastern territory.
Yeah, they just drew lines, random lines, to say this is that, this is this.
It was India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, portions of Iraq for a while. Mm-hmm. And when they drew the lines, they didn't draw the lines for the countries based on the ethnic tribes.
Right.
So that's why that's why with Pakistan and Afghanistan, you've got a large swath of the southeast of Afghanistan that's Pashtun, and the northwest of Pakistan is Pashtun, and they don't recognize the border.
No, they just go. And the thing is, like, an interesting part, and for us as Westerners, as Americans, we see borders. Like, we know we're in Maryland. You go across the Potomac River, you're in Virginia. The license plate changed. We identify as Marylanders and as Americans. But over there, it's based on Sunni, Shia, and whatever tribal element. It's a nomadic people anyway.
Right.
And then you'll have, it's not even interdispersed amongst one another, moving through one another. So it's not like this, like, even here, like, the gangs here have borders.
Right.
And, hey, why'd you kill that guy? Because he lives over there. Like that, but there's a border. As long as he stayed on that side of the street, he would have been fine, and he didn't.
Yeah, for anyone in this country to not think that kind of tribalism exists in the United States has never spent a minute in one of the major inner cities.
Yeah.
Where gangs are still very much influential.
Yeah.
Like, go to L.A. Mm-hmm. Bloods and Crips.
Yep.
Latin Kings.
Yep. MS-13, 18th Street, Mount Moth, all those different ones.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to get on any gang's bad side.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is there is some tribalism in this mm-hmm. United States. We just don't see it enough because it's not as reported on. Every once in a while, someone does an expose on, like, the Bloods of the Crips or something, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's so interesting." They're interested for, like, maybe a week, and they move on.
Right.
Well, over there, the tribes and the different factions, that's been going on for what, thousands of years?
Mm-hmm.
There's no shot a Pashtun person in Afghanistan is going to declare an oath of fealty to the country of Afghanistan over his own tribe of Pashtun people. No. He will go right back to the warlord and work for the warlord mm-hmm. because he's Pashtun. It's his own people.
Yeah,
I get that. I'm not saying he's wrong. Mm-hmm. But the fact that we went in there and tried to establish a national identity when the people on the ground don't even recognize their national border with another country was an exercise that was going to fail regardless.
But at what point,
and like I said, the Russians figured that out.
Yeah. And
we should have learned from that.
But at what point do we stop with this nation building nonsense?
I think it's got to stop now. This has got to be the last one, right?
I mean, because has it ever worked? Can we point to any country where it's been successful?
And we've tried different ways. Look at we tried in Venezuela. Mm-hmm. We tried to do it through their democratic process.
Yeah,
that's another thing. To think that elections can't be influenced by outsiders, in any country, mm-hmm. and to think that we don't do these things,
yeah,
because we're the holy United States.
Right, you're fooling yourself.
Fooling yourself.
Yeah.
Every country's trying to mess with every other country. We try to get our own U.S.-backed person elected as the Venezuelan president. We failed.
Yeah.
But we've tried takeovers of countries in different ways.
Yep.
We're not good at it.
No.
Now, I will say this. Who knows how many times we've done it and succeeded without the American people knowing it, right?
Right.
I'm not in the room.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe we got someone in the ground in Peru, right? Maybe Peru's one of us.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? I don't know.
Brazil, I mean, it could be any of them.
Couldn't tell you. But you're right.
Yeah, but like, why do we continue? Like, and some cultures just don't have the same values that we do. You know, some don't value democracy and freedom, and they don't. It's not something that they're concerned with.
True.
And to try to say everyone wants these ideals, which I'm sure if you went to the average Afghani living in a, without indoor plumbing and said, hey, you want to come to live in America? They'd probably take you up on the offer.
Right.
But that's an individual. That's an anecdotal incident.
Sure.
To bring it there, well, it doesn't mean anything to them.
Well, think about this. I don't want to move out of my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Can you imagine someone, the amount of convincing it takes to convince someone to leave their country
Yep.
that they've lived in for 30, 40 years?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Some have it so bad they'll leave at a drop of a dime if you let them.
Some are clinging to airplanes trying to get out.
Right. But others, but is that because they got used to a different way of life while they had the American forces on the ground?
It's
and it was
because
forced
they're
upon
terrified of dying.
them? Or that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Like
because
anything is going to be better than what I'm facing.
Yeah. Now, my other question though is, so they keep talking about the 10,000 American citizens that are still there. Who are these people? Are they contractors?
A lot of them are contractors. And there's actually another movie called The Kingdom. Mm-hmm. It's got Jamie Foxx in it and some other people. I think Jennifer Garner's in it. Mm-hmm. And it's actually another really good movie.
Yeah.
But one of the things they kind of showed was that there was like a little American enclave there because we have bases in these countries.
Right.
And they get staffed by Americans that come over via contractors, and they kind of carve out a little space for them to live. So a lot of American citizens come from that. Then you've got Americans that work at the embassies. That's where these American, plus all the bases that were staffed by Americans.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Plus the military that's there.
Yeah. But how are we going to, so when this whole timeline was developed, they decided that the withdrawal date was August 31st, which is tomorrow, right? Yeah. No one bothered to tell the Americans that were there, hey, we're leaving on the 31st. You better be here. Or did they assume that the Afghan army would be able to stand and fight off the Taliban for long enough for these people to make an orderly withdrawal?
I think you hit on that. And President Biden actually had kind of alluded to that when he said they didn't think it would get overrun as fast as it did. So I think they thought they had more time. I guess no one's going to say this was planned out well, right?
No, I don't think it was planned out at all.
I think almost everyone in this country would agree it was time to get out.
Yeah, but if you and I, just two schlubs in, suburban schlubs in a basement, can say that the Afghan army has no national identity, they're not going to fight for Afghanistan, the most powerful intelligence apparatus in the world couldn't figure that one out? Like, that's my question.
I learned it by watching a YouTube video. That's how I learned it.
Right. So the YouTube guy figured it out.
Yes.
And then you and I picked up on it. And I'm not a dummy, but I'm no, Rhodes Scholar either. I work a job that I still have my name on my shirt. You know what I mean? So, we figured this stuff out, right? So if they figured it out, why couldn't, what happened where no one thought, I don't think these guys are going to stick around? And if you talk to guys like that were over there and fighting with either Iraqi or Afghani forces, They'd go, but they didn't trust them. And they made some strong partnerships and bonds, but I mean that was with some of the more elite groups. You know, if they had to go in an operation with Iraqi troops, they're like, oh, this isn't going to go well.
Yeah, and you can tell I'm hesitating by what I'm about to say.
Mm-hmm.
All right. My father was high up in the military at one point. And once you get to a certain point in the military, you're no longer the soldier you were. Once you get to the general level, not general, level of you've attained the rank of general.
Right.
For the most part, promotions within either National Guard level or federal level, and there is a difference, the promotions are political.
Right.
So, now that doesn't mean they change Joint Chiefs of Staff with every presidential change, but in order to get your stars, you've played the political game.
Right.
And whether that's just shaking hands or saying the right thing, it doesn't matter. It's something along those lines, but I'm sure that the ones that have gotten 4 and 5 stars have played the political games long enough. I'm sure at some point, if you're at the level of Joint Chiefs of Staff, sometimes when you're in the room with a president and you're giving the president advice, you may not be 100% truthful, or maybe you're not getting. You're saying something more that they're going to like to hear.
Yeah, so you're telling him what he wants to hear.
A little bit, I think so, or they're going to. And I'm not saying they're outright lying. They might be putting a spin on it to make it sound like the plan that the president or someone wants to do could be successful, even though in the back of their mind they're saying, it's going to be a lot tougher than we thought.
Yeah.
Because of X, Y, and Z. However, if all things go right, yes, this could work. And so this is the plan we want to go with because the president wants to go with this, or his national security wants to go with it, or there's some external pressure to say that they want to do this. Now, I think in an ideal world in this situation, if you wanted to get out covertly, they should have been evacuating people.
Yeah.
Probably a month ago. Now, here's the other part of this, though. If something changed on the ground, and I think this is what actually happened, something changed on the ground where the government was probably collapsing a lot faster than they thought. They thought the military would hold out longer than it did, the Afghan national military. But the government collapsed very quickly once the Taliban started going forward. The boots on the ground, the intel on the ground, knew that the Taliban was probably going to start doing something. They just thought they probably had more time to do it. They probably thought they had another 30 days.
Yeah.
So they probably were like, look, we're going to start the initial withdrawal this month in August. But we got until September 30th, we'll be able to get the rest of the people out. So we don't need as many planes there. We don't need as many helicopters there. Like the evacuation plan was set up probably for 60 days when they really only had 30 and they didn't know it.
Yeah.
And it makes them look really bad, right? I mean, obviously they don't look good even to their own, even in Democrat circles. This doesn't look good. They're getting hammered.
To watch, CNN, talk bad about St. Joe is like, wow, is this... is the Chiron right on this? Like,
well, on CNN's part, I mean, bad news is good for ratings.
Yeah,
and so eventually they were gonna turn on the administration on the things that they could, and this is one of the things that they could. This is something that Democrat, Republican, they were all going to be critical about this.
Yeah,
unfortunately, I think some of the ire is misplaced, right? And the only reason why I say that is because it's war. These are people. Like,
right.
You might predict that the Afghan government might fall, but you might think, hey, look, we can get another 30 days out of the military just to kind of hold the Taliban off.
Right.
So we can get out of here. And unfortunately, that part of the equation didn't happen.
Yeah, they just dropped their weapons and ran.
Exactly. And they weren't. That was the one thing I guarantee they weren't expecting.
Yeah.
Because you put 20 years into training these people. You figure you got 20 years to create a national identity that these people would rally behind. And for the most part, they just didn't have enough soldiers that did.
Yeah.
Understandably so. Mm-hmm. It's an old part of the world.
Yeah.
You're not going to fix, or you're not going to change something that's been happening over thousands of years in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's the difference of long-term versus short-term thinking, and it's tough to think that 20 years is short-term thinking.
Oh, it's a blip.
But it's a blip, especially in that part of the world.
The average Afghani, their standard of living is not much different than someone's 2,000 years ago. So, but my question for us is, so we're just going to leave these people there? Like that's the one that gets me. Like, okay, if you had some bad intelligence, own up to it, but get these Americans out of there.
I think they're going to have an opportunity to do that. The attack that happened recently was not the Taliban.
Yeah, this is ISIS-K or whatever.
ISIS-K. Yeah, it's another version of ISIS, right?
It's like the Delta variant of ISIS.
I actually think the Taliban is actually going to have a harder time keeping control of the country than they think.
Well, and that's a good point, because some of the stuff I've read is that ISIS-K is better funded. They're getting more from wherever they're getting their funding from. Is able to attract more people than the Taliban is. So that's going to be the battle between them.
And they've got ties to those communities that the U.S. didn't.
Yeah.
They've got ties to the Pashtuns, the Tajiks. They have like that common Muslim bond.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not saying all Muslims are bad, but there's a common bond amongst those people and the people that live in Afghanistan, where they actually have a chance of getting the approval from the locals.
Yeah.
That the Americans never had a chance at getting.
Right.
But I actually,
and a lot of the approval we were getting was just paying them off.
True. Absolutely.
And there were guys that, you go and kick someone's door in, and then the civil affairs people would come and give them money. You kill some dude's goat. Okay, here's $2,000 for a goat.
Yep.
$2,000 for a goat. I mean, they lost pallets of money.
Yep.
We're not dealing with the most, honest and forthright people here, because the pallets of money, or the corruption, everything, it's crazy.
Think about $2.2 trillion in a country where to pay someone off, it's maybe $500.
Yeah.
You know how many $500 bribes you got to pay to get to 2.2 million?
Yeah.
It's a lot of bribes.
Yeah.
I mean, don't worry, there's other costs in there, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, stuff doesn't cost a whole lot over there.
Right. And, that's what they're doing. So the loyalty we had, bought loyalty, that's not really loyalty, because the next guy that comes with the higher bidder is...
It's gone immediately after the person leaves the front door.
Yeah.
Cash is in hand, you're out, I'm not loyal to you anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really blame them either. But just my issue still remains with leaving our people there.
Yeah.
Then, and for what it's worth, I'm of the type, go and use whatever force necessary to get them back. Not this, the Taliban ensured their passage. Okay, yeah, thanks the Taliban. Again, you didn't, the drug dealer at the liquor store was a bad dude.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit different though, and this is gonna be a very unpopular opinion. It is in the Taliban's best interest to let America get out who and what they want to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, the Taliban just wants to have Afghanistan for their own, and they don't want anybody bothering them.
Yeah.
What's the best way to ensure that you're forgotten?
To
let everyone leave.
Yeah.
Let all the Americans leave that want to leave, so that you don't have Americans. You're not giving them a need for revenge again.
Yeah. Oh, because they start beheading people on TV. It's
knock that junk off, right?
Yeah.
And from the interviews that I've seen, I mean, shoot, the head of the Taliban went on the Today Show Like they got their PR game is on fleek.
Yeah.
If the kids still say that.
I don't know if they do or not.
I don't think so. But you get my point. Like the new faces of the Taliban are saying the right things right now. Mm-hmm. If they've come that far as what they're saying, they're not going on the cameras. They're not going on the Today Show and saying "Death to America."
Right.
They're pretty much, from the things I've seen and heard, they're saying, "No, we want you to leave. Mm-hmm. Leave us to live the life that we want to live." Now, of course, you've got there's the whole debate on whether the life that they want to live is good for women, children, whatever.
Right.
I'm not here to debate that. It's not my way of living, right? I don't agree with it, but I'm also not ready to go to Afghanistan to stop that. We went to Afghanistan because the person who knocked down two towers in New York City, the guy who organized it was being housed there and protected there, right? That's why we went there. We didn't go there because it was an all virtuous thing where we thought women were oppressed.
No.
We were not there for that.
Which is funny, because that's one of the reasons why the Russians, that they manufactured a reason to go into Afghanistan, was because they were oppressing women and that, and we saw how it worked out for the Russians. Kind of the same way it's working out for us.
Yeah,
right now.
I mean, yeah, I don't think militarily it's necessarily a defeat for us like it was for the Russians. The Russians left because they were getting their buns handed to them.
Oh yeah.
We weren't getting our buns handed to us. I just think that our exit looks worse than it should. Mm-hmm. Because the puppet government we set up just collapsed.
Oh yeah.
So I think the ending looks worse than the actual defeat that it is. It wasn't like they beat us on the battlefield.
Oh no, and that's the thing is it. I agree. It looks bad when you think militarily. I mean, over the last several, I don't want to say go back several years, but it's been relatively quiet there. Like they weren't messing with, on large scale. And if they did come out to fight on a one-on, force against force, like they were absolutely annihilated.
Right. I mean, they were the masters of guerrilla warfare.
Yeah.
I mean, they knew the terrain.
Mm-hmm.
They knew which passes through the mountains that the U.S. needed for supply lines.
Yeah.
And they knew that they could go on the tops of the mountains and fire down on them, or they could just blow up the pass.
Yep.
The U.S. would go in and fix it, start all over again. I mean, it was just a constant back and forth of annoyances.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Guerrilla warfare is annoyances.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just hoping to annoy someone enough that they'll leave.
Right.
And eventually, I mean, it took 20 years, but that's what's happening.
Now, once bin Laden was dead, what was the point of continuing all this? Because I'm a cynic. Who's making money off of this?
Well,
defense contractors are making money off of it.
A lot of money.
And Jimmy Dore said the other day on, a couple weeks ago on Rogan, the worst way to, to support an economy is through defense spending, because you're literally burning the money. It's going to build a bomb which you're going to drop on some piece of crap, structure somewhere. Use a $2 million bomb to destroy a $2,000 Toyota pickup truck with a machine gun on the back of it.
Yep.
So that's probably the worst way to make money. But Raytheon shares probably went up.
Northrop.
Yep, Boeing. So, people are making money. So is that a completely cynical take on it?
No, I think that's part of it. Plus, you got the KKRs and the Browns. Mm-hmm. That they're the companies, and the Honeywells. They're the ones that go in to the countries and manage the green zones, the American cities, the bases.
Yeah.
Good old Dick Cheney, who was the head of
Halliburton.
That's another. I think Halliburton owned KKR or Brown and Associates or one of those. Those are the companies that go and they provide food services
Yeah.
for these bases and outposts. And they build commissary. I mean, when they go to these places, they build a full-fledged army base.
Oh, yeah.
It's got the commissary, the BX.
Yeah.
You got housing, you got housekeepers.
Yep.
I mean, these are all people employed. And look, if you're a simple housekeeper or a food server, the amount of money they pay you to go to these places is stupid money.
Oh, yeah. And so, and you know, the green zone in Baghdad in Iraq they called it the Emerald City. That was nuts. There's Burger Kings, pizza, Chick-fil-A.
Yep.
You just walk. It was crazy. Nice too.
So think about it. Burger King, Chick-fil-A,
Yeah.
Subway. They're all making money off of this.
Yeah.
So is it cynical? Maybe.
Accurate.
Possibly.
Now, here's the thing. If that's the motivator, what's to stop it from happening again somewhere else? Some other little flare-up somewhere, and we decide that we need to go into this, you know, because militarily you could defeat a lot of these little countries pretty handedly, pretty fast.
Well, you want to get even more cynical with me?
Yeah.
All right. What out of the election last year? Who or what became the most demonized group in America? Domestic violent extremism.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Domestic violent extremism. Well, now, if you don't need the foreign conflict to keep the dollars rolling,
Now the internal one. Yeah.
And you can sell military equipment based on that fear. Maybe you don't need to go set up that base.
Yeah.
But you want to know what might happen? The U.S. military might say, okay, we now have this new mission against domestic violent extremism. And you know all those 14 to 15 bases we wanted to close?
Now we should probably keep those open.
Looks like we need to keep them open.
Yep.
You know, and those 14 to 15 Burger Kings and Chick-fil-A's and, you know, the staffing by KKR and Brown and Honeywell and Halliburton. Well, now you need and you got 15 more BXs and commissaries and the military is one of the biggest consumers of products and goods in the country. Like if you looked up how much they spend on just consumer goods to run these bases and it's a hefty sum.
Yeah, because every toilet needs toilet paper. Every, you know,
you need computers.
Yeah.
Computers, roads, buildings, more airplanes.
Yep.
More bombs.
Yep.
More guns, more ammo.
Yeah.
More fish, chicken. You got to staff the commissary.
More Big Macs.
Yeah.
Yep.
In the BX, you got. I mean, back in the day when we went on base, man, you got a Sony Discman.
Oh yeah.
Nice and cheap.
Well, some of these commissaries are like, it's like a Sam's Club or a I think the one at Mead's really big, and that place it's like Costco. But you know, it's funny you mentioned the domestic stuff because, you know, I'm looking at a screenshot from NBC Nightly News a couple weeks ago. According to Homeland Security, the potential terror threats, opposition to COVID measures, claims of election fraud, and 9/11 anniversary and religious holidays are the first one, opposition to COVID threats. So let's keep that going too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
when the funny part is that there's currently pretty much not on the scale of the Nazis in World War II, but North Korea, it's essentially a Holocaust going on right now.
Right.
That like legit evil
in China.
Yeah.
With the Uyghurs.
Yeah.
That's I mean, I'm not going to compare it to an actual Holocaust, but they have concentration camps.
They're putting people in boxcars.
They're called re-education camps.
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff but we're not going to take on China.
Yeah.
Like we need an enemy.
Yeah.
And think about it. If you don't have to go, if you run out of countries to be enemies with that you can actually do something against, where's the next best place?
Yeah.
Home. we can do it right here. We don't have to. The cost of it would go way down.
Yeah, the logistics become really simple.
I don't have to set up a base 300,000 or 1,000 miles away.
Right, with people that are actually going to kill me.
Right, I could do it here.
Yeah.
All right.
And just keep the shell game going here.
Now, I'm not saying that's what's happening, but there's definitely the push for this domestic violent extremism, and the groups that they're talking about are tiny compared to the population in this country.
Yeah.
But they're violent. They're getting violent. Man, I'm not saying the KKK are good people.
No, I don't think anyone's going to say that.
No, nasty, awful people.
Yeah.
If they're still in look, Aryan Nation, whatever they are, they're still in existence. Mm-hmm. But I remember Vice did a kind of a documentary on them, or what do they call that kind of journalism?
Like
where
an expose?
Yeah, something like that, where they went in. And the recruiting for these people was a joke. Mm-hmm. Like, are they getting like the disaffectionate, or the kid that doesn't have any friends and he's looking for new friends? Sure, they might get him. Who's not into the cause, and when he gets a little too extreme, they're probably like, "Whoa, wait a minute, I shouldn't be here."
Yeah.
But if you're talking about groups, when you add them all up in different parts of the country, if it makes 100,000 in a country of 350 million, and they're all spread out across the country and not organized, and they all believe in a little bit different things, so they're never going to get together and do anything. Do you keep an eye on them? Sure.
Yeah.
Are you going in and infiltrating them and doing all? No.
Yeah.
No. It's just, I mean, shoot. I think they said this group in Michigan that was organizing the kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer, the governor there.
Right.
I think they said the group totaled 27 or 28 people. 13 were government informants. And it turned out that the 13 were the ones that pushed the agenda to go do this in the first place.
And that always, yeah.
It wasn't the people they were going at. Like, the people they put in there were the ones that were kind of like pushing bad thing.
That always made me kind of, I'd always look at that kind of side-eyed, or what would the kids say? They'd say that's sus.
Yeah.
Rather than saying suspect, because the extra syllable is really hard to...
Tough to do.
Yeah. You got too much going on. Can't say that extra syllable.
Yeah.
But when you see those, and there were some terror plots that they were able to foil, and it turned out like there was never any legit threat to anyone. They found some loser somewhere, and they talked a guy up into a frenzy, and they get him to go, and he thinks he's going to set the bomb off, and it's inert. It was all just a prop. And then they go and parade around like, look at this plot we foiled. To me, it's borderline entrapment,
That one's real close to entrapment.
Yeah. So you think about that, and you're like, what did you actually accomplish? Now, granted, there are guys out there doing great work and some legit investigations and actually cracking down on some things, but when you have to manufacture it and just find some, because you can find some loser anywhere. Yeah. Some dude that's just, what do they call them now? Those incels.
Look at that the Dylan Roof kid in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. All right. Look, he was a bad kid.
Yeah.
Did a horrible thing.
And he's going to die because of it.
Exactly. He's
good
going
riddance.
to die. Right.
And, so maybe if you had spent the time, now granted it's hard to track and people aren't putting everything all over Facebook, and I'm not sure, I don't know the details of that case, but that's the one you need to foil, not the one you invented to foil. Right. Like, hey, I just set my house on fire and I put it out, give me a medal. Like, dude, you did all of it. Right. So what exactly is the big the big success there? Maybe if you had stopped the Tsarnaevs, hey, I'll give you props for that.
The success was they got Bin Laden. They killed him.
Yeah.
Okay. And they killed some other pretty bad people in the process. Yeah. Okay. I think you're right. I mean, I think after they killed Bin Laden, it should have been get out time then.
Yeah.
Like, look, we're never going to build this nation into anything. I think the problem was, though, the optics of leaving because of the human rights issues.
Yeah.
Because of the female issue, how women are treated there.
Yep.
And look, we from this country with different ideals and values. I'm not saying women in Afghanistan, per this country's standards, are treated well.
Mm-hmm.
They're not.
Right.
According to us. But even if you go like in a country like Saudi Arabia,
mm-hmm.
we also don't think women are treated properly
right.
there. Women there, now there might be some women's activists there, but women there have been fighting for their reforms.
Yeah.
Women were allowed, 2 years ago, women were allowed to drive.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Right. But they fought for that.
Yeah.
That wasn't because of us.
Right.
They wanted that change.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. Look, if women stood up and fought in Afghanistan, they would be killed immediately.
Yep.
For any plethora of reasons.
Yeah.
Is it and this is one of the oldest questions, is it the U.S.'s responsibility to go and fix everything we think is wrong in the world? And the overwhelming response so far has been no.
Yeah. Well, because it doesn't work. And then it almost begs the question, so if you criticize another culture here, they'll call you a xenophobe or a bigot or this or that. Unless we're over there dropping bombs on them with F-15s, then it's okay. So it's we're talking out both sides of our mouth at that point. Yep. Now there's some, like, we killed a lot of legit bad guys.
Yep.
Over there.
Oh,
like
yeah.
People that were that deserved to die. That was the only thing that these people were good for was like good riddance, no loss there. Uday and Qusay Hussein
they were miserable people.
Yeah, just awful.
Violent.
There's a podcast called it's The Unraveling. It's Jocko and I forget the other guy, Daryl Cooper, I think his name is. And they go through and they like really get granular with the stuff that these people were doing. Uday, they were skinning people alive. I mean, just
it was gross, dude.
Sadistic
shit.
Yeah. Like achieves no end.
Like truly, like there are some truly messed up people.
Yeah.
Like
and shooting that guy in the face, but okay.
Yeah. We got Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
We got the son of Sam. Those two brothers were worse than them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'm not trying to say the other two were. I'm not trying to say Jeffrey Dahmer's a good guy.
Right.
Didn't he eat people?
Yes.
Yeah. These two were worse.
Yeah.
Than the dude that ate humans.
Yeah.
And them being dead, no one's crying over that.
Right.
So we it's not like we've never done good things.
Yeah.
But are we going to fix the world's problems everywhere that don't live up to our ideals?
Right. And you can't.
Can't. The world is too big.
Right.
Think about it. India. 1 billion people.
Yeah.
We have 350 million. Like they're almost 4 times our size. I think 1 billion isn't even the right number.
Yeah.
I think they have more than 1 billion. They're 4 times the size of us.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do?
Yeah.
We're not fixing their ills.
No.
Never mind the fact. Does anyone here want to fix India?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Do the Indians? I mean, and not that there's anything really wrong with India. I mean, they're not perfect either.
Teach their own.
Yeah.
That's their way of life.
Yeah. Do they want to be fixed? And there are some groups that legit wanted our help throughout the different parts of the world, but the Middle East, like the Kurds. We've done nothing but dick over the Kurds for just, I mean, like those people, I cannot believe. And some of the, if you're into military history or anything like that, or especially some of the from the Gulf War on, the first Gulf War, Desert Storm, like the Kurds are some of the most valiant, hardest fighting people there are.
Yeah. Like punching way above their weight.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And we've done nothing but screw them over. And it's always political considerations. Oh, we can't, the Turks don't like them and we have an air base in Turkey, so sorry, Kurds.
The perfect opportunity was in Iraq.
Yeah.
When we could have carved out a space for them in northwestern Iraq.
Yeah. called Kurdistan.
In fact, at one point in time, they were in complete control of that area.
Mm-hmm.
And because of, I believe, Turkey and Syria at the time, and Turkey is a close ally of the United States, or at least at that time was, and they were worried that if Kurdistan was allowed to exist in that northern part of Iraq, there was a large Kurdish population in that southeast corner
of Turkey.
I'm sorry, southwest corner of Turkey, right where that border is. They were afraid that they would take the opportunity by having their own country
to annex that section of Turkey.
Yeah. And so I think Turkey was the reason why Kurdistan never came about, because Sunni and Shia in Iraq, which were the other two major populations, and I think Shia more than Sunni, they weren't in that part of the country.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't live there. So for them, and again, this comes down to the tribalism is more important than the name of the country and the borders.
Yep.
I don't think the Shia population there would have cared too much. I mean, there was some oil. There probably would. I think there was a deal to be made there. Like, look, kick us 25% of the oil revenue.
Yeah.
And we'll let you create Kurdistan. You know, it basically kind of like give them like a 25 or 50 year lease or lease back on some oil rigs or something. So that way the country, the remaining part of Iraq wouldn't have been broke financially.
Yeah.
I think there was a deal to be made there, but I don't think it was the Shia in Iraq that said, no, we can't have this. It was probably Turkey that said, no, we can't have this, because they were worried about losing their part of their land.
And one of the things that Turkey holds over us is there's a big Air Force base there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And, it's a strategically important base. There's also access to the Black Sea through Istanbul. There's what is it? I forget the Straits or whatever. But it runs.
Hormuz, right?
Yeah.
Is that? I could be wrong with that one.
I'm not sure the name of it. I'm usually pretty good with geography, but I'm drawing a blank on this one.
I'm blanking that little corner.
And the thing is, the difference between the Shia and the Sunni is it's like Protestants and Catholics. Right. It's not that huge of a divide, but in our eyes, because you're like, I'm Catholic, you're Protestant, or whatever. We get along fine. We're not trying to kill each other, but it's just generations of blood feud and that have just been going on for so long that's where their loyalty. That's where Saddam were running Iraq the way he did, because Saddam was neither. He was a Ba'athist.
Well, he was a Sunni.
Yeah, but he was
the Ba'athist was the political party.
Yeah, the Ba'ath party.
He was a Sunni Muslim, and that's how the Sunni minority ran Iraq.
Was through that.
Because they violently took it over.
Yeah.
There's a movie called House of Saddam. Actually, it's a miniseries called House of Saddam. I believe it was an HBO series, and it kind of chronicled how that came about. Now, another one talks about how the Baathists took over Syria, and it was it had Sacha Baron Cohen, the comedian. He actually did a who's Jewish. He did another 6-part miniseries also from HBO called The Spy that kind of went into detail about how he was playing an Israeli spy, how he infiltrated kind of the Ba'athist takeover of Syria. Like, he got in with the Ba'athists before they took over Syria. So when they did take over Syria, he was really high up in there.
Yeah.
Not politically, he was more of a socialite kind of person.
Yeah.
But so I mean, The Spy, really good I think it's like 6-part documentary. Not, it's a movie, but with a lot of historical fact in there. And then House of Saddam. That's another one. If you ever want to see how the Baathists got both countries.
Yeah. And the Baathists were very prior to were more like Nazis than they were. They got a lot of their.
They killed a lot of people.
Yeah, and that's how they kind of. If you look at Saddam, it was all the military uniforms and the parades and all this stuff.
Very North Korea-esque.
Yeah, that and the with but there is because the Germans were there in World War II as well. So
yep.
But yeah, that part of the world has just been carved up and drawn into lines that don't really mean anything to them. And if we try to enforce it, the Saudis are able to get away with it because they just have so much money.
Right. Well, and then the Saudis and Iran are bitter enemies.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, it's like, look, I think part of the reason why we're there is to support the Saudi government.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the Shia population is much larger than any Sunni population in those other parts. Like the Sunni dominates Saudi Arabia, and the Bedouins.
Yeah.
But I think in a lot of the other parts, I think Shia is the majority in a lot of these countries. Like I know in Iran, Shia is the majority. Iraq, Shia is the majority. I'm not sure about Afghanistan and Pakistan, but
yeah, I'm not sure how that works either.
And then you got India, who's Hindu. That's not Muslim. That's Hinduism,
and Sikhs.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, going back to your original question though, are they going to get all the people out?
Yeah,
I think there's a deal to be made there. I don't think the Taliban. As a kid, I don't think the Taliban want the heat anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just want to take their country back.
Yeah.
And do whatever they want to do. Whether they want to kill Afghans or whatnot, I don't know. I don't know how that works, but I think they're going to steer clear of harming Americans, so that there isn't blowback. Yeah. Basically. Now I could be wrong. They might go and kill everybody.
Well, then what happens if ISIS-K beats the Taliban?
Yeah, I think the Taliban is probably going to be much stiffer resistance than the Afghan National Army was for sure.
Yeah,
like they're not going. There's no shot if ISIS goes after Afghanistan and the Taliban that the Taliban is just going to lay down arms and let them take it. I don't think that happens. I think they're going to have a fight, and ISIS may know that.
Yeah,
and they might be like, "Look, we want to go after Americans. We're not here to kill other Afghans or other Muslims. We just want to kill Americans on their way out." Because before that day, I'd never heard of ISIS-K.
No,
it sounds like Special K. It sounds like a cereal.
Yeah, a bad, bland cereal.
Right.
And the thing is, like, that part of the world still, the Syria question isn't settled. That's still going.
Still going.
Bashar al-Assad's still there.
And I don't think Iraq is settled either. I think that's going to be...
No. And at what point do we just say, we're done?
Well, you got some people on the left that said we should have been done 19 years ago.
Yeah.
Or whatever, how many years ago we killed bin Laden? All right, good. We should have been gone then. Tuck tail, get out.
Yep.
I think people forget on the left there's a huge anti-war movement on the left. And I think on the right, I think there are some people right now politicizing the crap out of this.
Well, they just want to make Biden look bad.
They want to make him look bad. Yeah.
And Biden's not helping himself either.
But look, I also think, though, with the whole MAGA movement and now the America First movement, there's a lot of people on the right who don't want us in foreign wars either.
Yeah.
Like, we keep talking about the populist left and the populist right.
Yep, I was just going to say it.
There's very little that separates them.
Yeah.
Other than the fact they've been on the left and the right so long, they don't realize that the populist parts of each party have a whole lot in common.
Oh yeah.
And the media has a very big incentive to make sure that they don't know.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of people on the left and a lot of people on the right. Like, look, we're getting out and it's messy, but I'm really happy we're out.
Yeah.
And by the way, go finish the job and get everybody else out.
Yeah.
Don't make this your Saigon. You still got time.
Yeah.
I mean, at least that's my opinion on it. There's still time to right this ship. Now, no, don't get me wrong, though. The media and the right, the conservative movement on the right, they're never going to let him think he did a good thing.
No.
But there, at one point in time, whether a Republican or Democrat president, one of them was going to have to get out of this mess. And to be honest with you, Biden's probably the perfect person to do it. He's in his 80s. Or is he in his 70s?
He's 78.
78. He's 78 years old. He doesn't have maybe he'll run for president again, but probably won't.
When I look at him, I don't know if he's going to finish this term.
Well, who knows? But what I'm saying, he doesn't need the political capital anymore.
And the thing is, I almost feel bad for the guy, because when I see him, I'm just like he looks old. Now, when you look at progressions of presidents from when they come in, like Abraham Lincoln's crazy. Yeah. Like when he was first elected, and then, Barack Obama. Now he was there for 8 years. Yeah. W. Bush was there for 8 years. So there's going to be 8 years of aging, but
they both looked real. They looked like they aged like 25 years.
Oh yeah,
both of them. Yeah. Clinton was the same way.
Yeah, and when I look at Joe Biden, I feel bad for him. Like, you guys really pulled this dude up and ran him. You couldn't find anybody else,
right?
Because I feel it's like, let this guy just rest.
The thing that surprised me, and I can't remember the guy's name in Ohio. Is it Tim Ryan? He's a Democrat. He was gonna challenge Nancy Pelosi for the Speaker of the House. Okay. A couple of years ago, young white guy, Democrat out of Ohio. Mm-hmm. One of those swing states.
Yeah.
Why they haven't? I feel like the Democrat hasn't pumped their bench, whereas Republicans, at least in the last 5-6 years, once you get past like the Cruzes and the Rubios and whatnot, there's actually a pretty good bench of Republicans that are coming up.
Yeah, it's like the major league club isn't that good, but they got a good farm system.
But it's part of the reason why local governments right now are dominated by Republicans. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, I mean, I think it was 28 states right now have Republican majorities in the Houses and Senates.
Yeah.
Yeah, we only got 50 states.
Yeah.
So, somewhere along the line at the local level, Republicans are making headway. Mm-hmm. And I think that getting that many young people elected, it's created a bench. It's gotten them. It teaches them how to get through a campaign, how to staff a campaign, how to run a campaign. Because with every candidate, you've got someone that needs to run the campaign. So now not only are you creating a bench of candidates, but you're creating a bench of people that know how to operate campaigns, which is just as important.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean there's going to be more Republican wave? No. It'll probably swing back the other way like it always does. Just like in the House and Senate, I think it's going to swing back Republicans in 2022.
Yeah.
But right now, if you had to give me a national candidate for president on the Democrat side, I don't know I could tell you one that's under the age of 60.
Yeah, I
mean, unfortunately, Kamala Harris has not done herself any favors.
No, and I think that she's just... Because likability is a big thing.
It's huge, yeah.
And I just don't think a lot of people think
Well, and the other thing with Republicans is they've got a deep bench of women. Mm-hmm. And they're starting to get a bench of minority candidates.
Yeah.
Like, I know the old mantra is the Republicans are the old racist party, the old white man racist party. But on the local level, and it's starting to creep up, and you got the I believe Tim Scott, black male Republican, South Carolina. Ted Cruz is Hispanic minority.
Yeah.
You're getting more minorities, and you're starting to get now. Right now, they're mostly white women, but they're getting more women.
Yep.
Now,
and even if you look at on the social media side, like the influencers, there's a lot more minority conservative voices than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And you've got there's that guy Zuby. There's this other Corey Yeshua, I think. There's
Coleon Award.
Yep.
There's Candace Owens is as big as it gets.
Yep.
Larry Elder, the guy running for governor out in California. Mm-hmm. Now Larry's been doing it a really long time though as a radio show host.
Yep. And he might win that.
Well, and if you ever listen to Larry Elder or Brandon Tatum, and by the way, these are people, and Candace Owens, these are people with 1 million plus subscribers on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
You might not see them on the news. You might not see them anywhere on regular TV, but people are watching them on YouTube and other platforms and through podcasts. And, but, that's when, when Democrats say, "Oh, you need to listen to minorities," Well,
as long as they agree with
right. Well, what happens when I go and listen to these minorities?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the one person a lot of these conservative Republican minority people, influencers, the one person they always talk about is Thomas Sowell.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
If you haven't heard or read Thomas Sowell, what he's put out there, and the guy's probably, I think, in his 70s right now.
He's an economist, right?
I believe so. Yeah. I didn't know about this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they say they don't teach like Black history or black influencers or black intelligent people, how this guy got left off the list, is unheard of to me.
Mm-hmm.
He's super intelligent.
Yeah.
Even guys like Alan West, Leo Terrell, like these are all conservative minority people. But if you say that's the minority voices that you're listening to, it's like, oh, no, we didn't mean them.
Right. No, yeah. We want to hear black voices, just not those black voices.
Right, yeah.
Which is just such a pile of crap.
Right.
It's so disingenuous because it shows that when they say that, they just want to hear black voices that support that position. They don't care. They don't want to hear conservative black voices.
Well, it's the whole, diversity of what's the saying? It's diversity of appearance, not diversity of thought.
Right, exactly.
They don't want any dissension of opinion. No, but like we've talked about this before. That was the Republican Party about 14, 15 years ago, when Barack Obama was running. The Tea Party came up.
Yep.
They were the same way. You better think like this.
Yep.
Or you're not one of us.
Yeah, we're going to call you a rhino. And that term still gets tossed around.
Still does, dude. Michael, like a guy like, don't get me wrong, Michael Steele, I think he's more Democrat, even though he was a lieutenant governor of the state of Maryland as a Republican.
Yeah.
But part of it, I think, is because he's on TV and he's trying to keep a job. But they call him a rhino. Mm-hmm. Shoot, the governor in Maryland, Hogan, rhino.
They call Dan Crenshaw a rhino.
Yeah, which is because they want to compromise and they want to find some middle ground and actually get stuff done.
Because the thing is,
you're now a rhino?
Right.
Get out of here.
And that drives me nuts. You still have to govern.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, you want to stand there and say, they don't do anything. But then when they do stuff, you're a rhino. So.
Well, a great example of that infrastructure bill, the one that was bipartisan in the Senate, passed on a bipartisan. So it was put together by, I think it was the new Gang of Eight, whatever.
Yeah.
4 Republicans, 4 Democrats put it together. Even went and negotiated with Joe Biden.
Yep.
He signed off on it. Passed the Senate bipartisan vote.
Yep.
Sitting in the House right now.
Yeah.
Because they won't vote on that until they vote on the progressive agenda for the budget.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute. This is something that you can do. Take the win. Who cares if it was done with bipartisan votes?
Yeah.
It shows you can work with someone else.
Yep. And it's funny because they all stand there in their campaigns, all work with the other side. And then when they get elected, I want to hear the other side. No, you don't.
You want to know the best way to get that middle 40% of this country? Pass something bipartisan.
Yeah.
When you're in power. Like right now, the Democrats have done a lot of things to push independent voters away.
Yeah.
But if they were to go and just pass that bipartisan infrastructure bill without it tied to their progressive agenda budget bill, that would get a lot more independent, that middle 40 or 35% of voters. It would bring a lot of them back because it's like, okay, look, you're trying to do what you're trying to do. We get it. That's your politics. But at least you did something for the better of the country that was done on a bipartisan level.
Yeah.
You're going to pull some people back like that. It's like whoever's doing the PR right now for Democrats is doing an awful job.
They just want to ram through the stuff of the crazy, the fringe of the party. And now that infrastructure bill, I think it costs too much, and there's a lot of stuff in it that isn't infrastructure. I think bridges, roads. They're trying to say climate change stuff is infrastructure. Like there's some big stretches in there, but mainly my problem with it is it costs too damn much money that we don't have.
$1 trillion.
Yeah, And on top of the, what is it, that budget they have, that
$3.5 trillion.
$3.5 trillion budget.
And like we said before, usually, like a few years ago, full-blown budgets were about $1 trillion or 1.4.
Yeah. And you're printing off money that we don't have. And like, so stop it.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like what they say South Park, the dog.
Yeah.
Don't be gay, Sparky. Don't be gay.
Yeah.
It's like, that doesn't work.
Yeah. But I just, I don't, that's why I don't like it. So I would have voted against it, but I'm not elected anywhere. So.
Well, but again, though, I might not agree with the price tag. I might not agree with everything that was in it. But you want to know what? Because it was put together by 4 Republicans and 4 Democrats, signed off by a Democrat president. And if the House would put it up and pass it on a bipartisan vote, I don't care what the dollar amount is.
Yeah.
You showed you could govern with the other side, not just ramming through what you want to ram through. Yeah. And again, and someone's going to say, well, they're going to they might pass it in September after they pass their other thing, their other main budget through. No. You got this sitting here.
Yeah. Pass
it.
Go for the easy layup.
Right. Exactly. Take your wins.
Yeah.
But they don't see it as a win.
Right.
Because they're going to, and right now, and if it was Democrats, right, actually, moderate Democrats are the ones that are going to force the vote on that. So the deal that they made was, okay, we'll vote on the huge budget first, but Nancy's like, well, but we're definitely going to put the other one on the floor too after. So if you want that to go on the floor, you better vote for this one. Yeah, moderate Democrat.
Yeah, they're crazy. And the thing is, like, that crazy stuff doesn't play in the middle.
No, that's the thing, right? What I don't think they're understanding is people in the middle are seeing that because it was definitely a public thing. I mean, I will say that those moderate Democrats played a really nice hand, in my opinion, because they went to social media, they went on the news, they went public with it. They didn't keep silent. And they said, look, we don't think this is right by the American people.
Yeah.
Because it was done in a bipartisan way. And we're moderates. We like the compromise way.
Yeah.
And most times I'll say this, they probably felt like they were getting pushed. Because right now, how often do moderates have a say in anything?
Never.
Right? So right now I think they only needed like 6 because the split in the House is so narrow. I think it was, maybe they had 9. So they had more than they needed. So even if a few dropped off. But they were like, look, you can bow down to these super progressive people and put all this stuff in the bill, but we're not going to vote for it.
Yeah.
So you're going to come back to the middle because we hold enough votes to sink anything you want to put through. It was a brilliant move.
Yeah.
Now, whether they stick to it, I don't know. And from what I heard in the background, that of the 9, they were all trying to cut their own deal.
Yeah.
So they weren't it's not that solid of a core group, right?
Right.
But at the time, it was a real nice move on their part. And it was a way to push back against the more extreme part of the party, saying, hey, look, you're going to get me unelected if you keep pushing this stuff through. Because obviously these moderates are from moderate.
Right.
They're from moderate districts, right?
I always wondered how there's you have the Squad and all those crazies, and then you've got like the Tea Party and the Freedom Caucus and all this. Why isn't there like a coalition of just like normal ones?
So you had one with the Democrats. There used to be the Blue Dogs, and the Blue Dogs. Heath Schuler was part of the Blue Dogs when he got elected in Tennessee, I think.
Yeah.
The problem, so the bases got them. They primaried them, and got them voted out for someone who was more progressive.
Yeah.
Well, the Republicans were doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The Tea Party. This is back when the Tea Party was rising. I mean, remember that lady from Delaware?
The crazy one.
Like she believed in witchcraft and stuff.
Yeah.
And she got creamed in the general election. Well, I think some of these people are like, look, we're going to give up a few seats, but the ones that we get are going to be more of the base than of the middle. And so whenever we get that majority, we're going to be able to push through that more progressive or that more conservative agenda without these stupid moderates getting in the way.
Right. They actually want to keep the trains running and the lights on.
Yeah.
But my thing is, if you're going to... I've always blamed the like the divide, the gridlock on the primary system.
Yeah.
Because in order to get elected, you have to go so far right or so far left, and that the majority of the country really who resides in the middle isn't represented by anyone. Because when it comes down to it, you have a choice between, wingnut right winger and wacky communist. So really, you've got the choice. Then you vote on that guy looks like an asshole. So you pick the lesser two evils. I think most people in this country are voting against somebody else, not necessarily for someone.
Absolutely.
So it's like, what do I want to eat, the cat turd or the dog turd? Like, which one am I? Like, you got to eat one of them.
Yep.
So it reminds me of The Simpsons, like when the aliens come and they take over. It was during the 92 election, I believe. Yeah, with Clinton. Or no. Was
that the Gore Bush one?
96 with Dole and Clinton. And they've taken over Bill Clinton's body and Bob Dole's body. And then they reveal themselves and they say, "Oh, you have a two-party system. You have to pick one of us." And Ross Perot's there, like, we could vote for a third party. And then the alien says, "Go ahead, throw your vote away." Right. And they vote for the alien overlords.
Right. Yeah, a third party is never gonna make it. I mean, even the new libertarian candidate is Dave Smith.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably the first rational person or sane sounding person that libertarians have ever put up.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Johnson was on the ticket a while back, and everyone thought Bill Weld probably should have been the headliner on that ticket, not the vice president on that ticket, because Gary Johnson's kind of a loopy dude.
Yeah. Was he the governor somewhere?
Governor of Arizona.
Yeah.
Yeah. But definitely he kind of like a little bit of flighty kind of character.
And he was in some interview and they asked him a question about...
They asked him about Aleppo.
Yeah.
Now look, if anyone says the word Aleppo, right off the bat in this country, I mean, unless you're just knee deep in it, no one's thinking Syria.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I go up to Joe Schmo on the corner and I say, "Hey, what do you think about Aleppo?" Is it delicious? I don't know. Like, so it was some reporter pulled out a question about, just said, "What do you like?" It wasn't led up to, so it wasn't like they were talking about Syria. And she's like, "What do you think about Aleppo?"
Yeah,
it was like out of left field. She's like, "Well, what do you think about Aleppo?"
Right,
and like he just got caught off guard.
Yeah,
and of course it's like the Howard Dean.
Yeah, the scream. Michael Dukakis on the tank.
Yeah, like it's the one thing, and then people are like, "Oh, well, he must be crazy."
Yeah,
we can't vote for him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did. So it's still a good old gotcha moment.
Yeah.
If I'm quoting what's her face, Mama Bear from Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
What's all these gotcha questions?
Oh yeah.
Get out of here, lady.
Yeah, that was another.
She's a winner.
Yeah.
But anyway, whether they'll get everybody out or not, I hope they will. It's going to look like it's going to be a major talking point, a major disaster for the Biden administration, at least not from the right's perspective. Right now, the left is hammering him too. I think he's probably just the guy who was in office that he was in office when he called for this to happen. It's almost like Jimmy Carter in his Iran situation. Yeah. And the Iranians didn't let the American hostages go until Reagan became president, and then they let them go just to make Jimmy Carter look bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be Biden's look bad moment, but some president was going to pull out of Afghanistan. It was not going to be clean.
Yeah.
And people were going to be mad about it. And like we mentioned, President Biden doesn't need political capital anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think he kind of took the L when he knew it was something that needed to be done.
Yeah.
And hopefully this is probably the deepest we've gone into politics for a while. But
yeah,
hopefully this didn't turn too many people off. But we hope that you enjoyed the show. We enjoy doing this and appreciate everyone that listens. Please like, subscribe, share. comment on these videos and podcasts. Rate us if you can rate us. And share this with a friend. Let someone else know that you like what you're listening to. Let them listen to it too. And we will see you next time.